Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Introduction to the SALSA scheme. We're going to take up about half an hour, 40 minutes of your time, just going through the SALSA scheme and answering any questions you might have at the end of the presentation. Do put any questions you have as you're thinking about them in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. My name is Sarah Robbins. I'm the marketing manager for SALSA. I've been with SALSA for nearly 10 years now, working on various projects within the company, and I'm now the marketing manager. So we are very keen to involve all our members and bring in new members and really let you know what SALSA is all about and that we're not big and scary. We're joined today by our lead presenter, Alison Sawyer. Alison is a SALSA auditor and mentor, and she has been with us for over 5 years, but has been in the industry for over 25 years in food retail and in food manufacture. Alison has a wealth of experience working with small food and drink producers in the UK. And I think you're going to really enjoy today her presentation and her take on what the SALSA scheme is and how it can benefit your company. Alison, oh, and apologies, Alison's camera's not working, so you're not going to see Alison, but she's here and she's looking forward to it. So I'll hand you over now.
Hello everybody, my name is Alison, and today I'm going to talk you through the topic, which is just introducing you to the SALSA scheme. So firstly, we're going to have a look at what is the SALSA certification scheme and who is it for. We'll have a look at the SALSA certification standards, the support and resources that are available, how the membership scheme works, obtaining SALSA certification along with the key timescales. And then once you've decided to start with SALSA, how do you get started really? And then just some top tips from me as an auditor and a mentor, and then just some top tips as well on preparing for the big day. So when we're looking at SALSA then, so if we think about what is the SALSA certification scheme, it's a not-for-profit making joint venture founded by 3 of the main trade associations representing the food and drink industry. These being the Food and Drink Federation, the National Farmers Union and UK Hospitality. So the IFST, which is the Institute of Food Science and Technology, oversees the running of the scheme on behalf of the owner, which is SALSA Scheme Limited, and it's made up of representatives of these 3 trade associations. The IFST also runs the professional register that verifies the competence of the SALSA auditors. SALSA is more than just a certification scheme though, as it provides training and support, which we're just going to go through in more detail shortly. But we like to think of SALSA as being a really supportive community of like-minded individuals with a passion for local and regional safe food. So when we think then, who is the SALSA scheme for? So it's for small micro food and drink businesses in the UK and the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man. Those food businesses that are operating from a commercial premises, so rather than your domestic home, needs to be operating from a commercial premises. And it's aimed for companies that have got less than 50 production employees. At SALSA though, we're all about giving you the confidence and support so that when you're speaking to the regional or national food and drink buyers, you know that you're really well prepared and that you're working to the right food safety standards. So because you've got the right robust food safety management systems in place. So just talk a little bit now about the difference between SALSA and something that you might have heard of, which is scores on the doors. And I know that you've probably all seen these logos. So the Food Standards Agency set up a scheme called Scores on the Doors, and it's managed by the local environmental health officers who carry out inspections. And this scheme is aimed at businesses who supply and serve food and drink to the public. So the likes of pubs or cafes or restaurants. And the main aim is to check that businesses are compliant with food hygiene legislation. It also helps members of the public make the right choices, and it just raises the awareness of food hygiene standards so that as a consumer, you've got this transparency, and you can then choose where you want to eat based on the food hygiene rating of the establishment. But what SALSA does, which is slightly different, is it provides your suppliers with confidence that you have the right food standards systems in place, and for your due diligence as well. But the SALSA standard covers more than just your local authority requirements, incorporating both the legal requirements and also elements of best practice within the food industry as well. As I've already mentioned, SALSA is aimed towards small-scale manufacturers, so small to medium-sized businesses, so up to about 50 people working in the production area. The audit is a 5 to 6 hour audit, and the audit is always an announced audit. So you know when your audit is going to be. You've arranged it with your auditor beforehand, so you know that when they're going to come. And it's for branded products. So SALSA is a good entry level if you are looking for to grow your business. It's got a lot of flexibility as well on how the requirements are met. So SALSA Food Standard was the first audit standard that SALSA had, and is suitable. We still have that, and is suitable for most food and drink producers. There's a number of supporters that SALSA has, and is recognised by over 1,500 buyers, and it's supported by the likes of Mitchells and Butler, Asda, Arcado, Morrison's, Defra, Booths, Enterprise Foods, to name a few. But SALSA does recognise that not all food and drink categories are the same, so SALSA has has been working with a number of organisations, including the Specialist Cheesemakers Association, Caskmark for beer, and the Ice Cream Alliance, to create category-specific standards, and we call these SALSA Plus. For those of you that might supply the public procurement channels, such as the NHS or schools, SALSA certification is accepted by Micron 2, who now manage this instead of STS, who previously managed their small and local suppliers. So at SALSA, we know that we're really good at supplying support to our members as well as resources, and it's what we're really, really good at. So we have a practical, we're very practical, and we're really approachable as well. So we aim to support you and help you grow your business right from the start. So we believe in setting you up for success. So we're really helpful. We like encouraging you all the way through your journey so that your business has a strong food safety culture right from the start of your SALSA journey. There's many resources available, including a listening ear at the end of the phone. So you can always ring the office to ask for support or advice. And we also have SALSA mentors that are out in the field as well, so you will have a local SALSA mentor to you, and I'll talk about those in a few moments. But each of these elements on the slide I'm just going to go through in a little bit more detail. So what can a SALSA approved mentor do for you? So we use the term SALSA mentors, but often people don't really know what we mean by a mentor. So I'm a SALSA approved mentor, and in order to become a mentor for SALSA, an approved one, we must be registered with the Institute of Food Science and Technology, and there's quite a very rigorous process that we go through so that we can be registered as a professional food auditor and mentor. This certificate demonstrates that the mentor has the necessary skills and qualifications so that it just gives you confidence that you're in safe hands. So a mentor can offer all kinds of support. The best thing to do, though, is to start with a gap analysis against the SALSA standard, because this helps you know exactly where you are. Have you got things in place already, or do you need to put a few extra things in place? And we can help explain or simplify more complex technical terminology. For example, what do we mean by food defence? How can we help you simplify your traceability system, or are there any gaps in your traceability system that we can help you implement? We also have a SALSA directory as well. So if you are, wherever you are in the country, you can log on to the SALSA website, and there's a list of SALSA approved mentors on there. So at least you know that you have got a SALSA approved one, and we keep up to date with all requirements of the standard and training. In addition to the SALSA Mentors directory, we also have something online called the SALSA Tools and Tips. And again, this is just helping you put the right things in place right from the start. So it's really good. I love the SALSA Tools and Tips, and I think it's a really underutilized, it's quite underutilized really. So I always like to share the tools and tips with people. So it's free to all members, and how it works is you go on the tools and tips, which is on the SALSA website. You can type in the clause number, so the requirement within the standard, each has a clause number. You can type that in, and for most of them, it's not for all, but for most of them, there is something called the tools and tips page, and that tells you in detail exactly what you need to put in place. And it's got some top tips of simple, easy to use templates as well. So instead of you reinventing the wheel and setting up records, we do have some there so that you can just use those. They're in a locked PDF version, but if you contact the SALSA office, they will happily send you an unlocked version. And it's really good because then you can make it specific to your factory. You can add your logo on it, put your you can put your formatting on the bottom for your document control as well. But they're really simple and easy to use, and it just it relates to best practice. And so yes, it's free. We also have, once you become a member, we also have something called the SALSA Interpretation Guidance, and this tells you everything you need to comply, everything you need to do to comply with the clause, and it also has a section on how can I demonstrate this. So as an experienced auditor, I always recommend this to suppliers ahead of their audit. Make sure that you download the interpretation guide, and also I always share this with clients that are mentoring as well, because it really helps you get the right standards in place right from the start, so you're really well prepared for your audit. So we also have a label check service as well. So one of the biggest causes for recalls in the UK is due to labelling areas, particularly around allergens. So we understand that labelling legislation can feel a bit of a minefield at times, can't it? So SALSA supports in taking the stress and the worry out of this for you. So you can send your existing labels to SALSA, and they will advise you on what you need to change so that you're legally compliant. Or if you've not yet got the artwork, so you're just at the beginning of your journey, you can work with SALSA, and they will provide you with the legal text needed on your label so that you've got the accurate ingredient, allergen, nutritional information, etc. So yeah, so it just really gives you confidence that you know you're doing the right thing and that your labels are legally compliant. So another service that we provide is training. So one of the most popular courses is HACCP Level 2, Understanding the Principles. So at SALSA, we've got a group of trainers, and the trainers are trainers that really specialise in small businesses, so they understand the challenges within the that you face, and they understand the industry and have lots of industry knowledge. So so we have the HACCP Level 2 Understanding the Principles course, and this is a one-day practical and interactive full-day course where delegates will gain a sound knowledge of HACCP, and it'll just give you the confidence to apply this within your business. So these can be category specific. So, so if you're working in the brewery industry or butchery or distillery or cheese making, you won't be learning about what makes a cooked chicken safe. We've developed these courses so they are very much category specific. So it just gives you the confidence when you go back to your workplace that you can implement them and it's relevant to you. The courses can be run online with a trainer, or they can be run at your site as well. So at least when you've got the trainer there, it's not where you're just looking at a presentation, then filling in multiple choice questions at the end. It's a, you know, you have got a trainer at the end of the computer, similar to today, really. But it gives you the opportunity to ask questions at the time if you're not sure about something. If you've already got your HACCP qualification and you've implemented it at your site, but you just want a little bit more confidence, you want a fresh pair of eyes just to have a look over your existing HACCP, just so that you know that you're on the right track. But you can also contact one of our SALSA mentors through the directory, or you can contact SALSA and they will put you in touch with one close to your workplace, and they'll just have a look over your HACCP and just help you, point you in the right direction, or tell you that you're doing a great job and it's fine. So leading on to training then, so in addition to HACCP, we've got a whole raft of other training courses available. So SALSA is always listening to our members and has developed a training programme to support their needs. And this is evolving all the time as well. So the SALSA website has got a calendar of learning dates and courses, and they can be held at venues throughout the country or online, as I've already mentioned. So the training isn't just available for SALSA members, though, it's also available for non-members. We've received lots of really positive, successful feedback from the people that attend our courses, and we find that they thoroughly enjoy the courses. And you know, it just gives them really good confidence when that's the feedback that they give us. It gives them lots of confidence to implement what they've learned. So with a SALSA training, then you're safe in the knowledge that you've got the best standard of training, and we're using experienced qualified trainers. SALSA training there, we'd carry it out in small groups as well, so we make sure that spaces are strictly limited, yes, we have this tutor with you for the day so that you can answer any questions. So we're just going to go through now how the membership works. So when we obtain SALSA, well, if you want to obtain SALSA certification, it's a bit of a journey really, and I'm often asked, how long will it take for me to get my SALSA certification? And my answer is every business is different really, so it depends on what you've already got in place to start with, and also how much time you've got available to implement any changes that are required. So as with everything, good preparation is key. So the first stage then is preparing for your audit. So firstly, register to download the SALSA audit standard free of charge, and purchase your audit and join the SALSA scheme, and that will unlock unlimited resources then for the resources that we've just been talking about. Once you have registered, like I said, it's a good idea to get a SALSA mentor in to help you, and the first job they will do is you know, help you interpret the standard, carry out a gap analysis, and then you know where you're at. The second stage then, so once you've done that and you have implemented the changes that are required, stage 2 is the SALSA audit itself. So a friendly auditor, the office will contact an auditor in your area, and you'll have a nice friendly auditor that will contact you and agree a mutually agreeable date for you to have your audit, and then the audit will take place. So stage 3 then is the audit review and certification. So SALSA reviews the auditor's report. So once the audit has taken place, the auditor uploads their report, and SALSA, the office, receives the report and they review the report. If there are no actions raised from your SALSA audit, then SALSA approves the site within 14 days and you will receive your SALSA certificate. If there are any corrective actions that are required, you've got 28 days to send evidence to SALSA that you have closed out the actions that have been raised during your audit. SALSA then review within 20 working days, and once you have SALSA have reviewed that and they are happy, they're satisfied that you have closed out all of the actions appropriately, they will issue you with your certificate. And at this point, this is when you can download the SALSA logo pack as well. So we give you the logo pack. So if you want to put that on any, on any of your kind of procedures or anything like that, then you can do. So the SALSA certificate then, so just to explain the SALSA certificates, we've got a test example up here. So your audit certificate will contain the information on this example for a first audit. So we have an anniversary date, and the anniversary date stays the same each year, and it's based on the date of your first audit. And you can see the anniversary day indicated with the star just over here on the left. This generates an audit window. So this anniversary date generates an audit window, and this gives you 8 weeks before your anniversary date to take your audit. What I would say is leave plenty of time to get your audit closed, that it gives you plenty of time to get your audit closed out for the next year. So you have the expiry date as well. So this is 8 weeks after your anniversary date. So taking your audit to the next audit window means that your certificate has weeks before it expires, keeping you approved while you close out your next audit and your certificate is reissued. When arranging your next audit, though, what I would recommend is that you pay for your membership before in good time. So try and pay for it if you can before your audit window. And if you leave it if you do it probably about a month before your audit window, then that's a really good length of time. The reason that I say to pay your membership before your audit window is because once you have paid your membership, the office contacts the auditor. If you're leaving it too close or you're going into your audit window, it's just more tricky sometimes for you to have the same auditor, and you can have the same auditor for 3 consecutive years. So just making sure that you've given yourselves plenty of time to prepare for your audit, and also if you want to have the same auditor, then it just gives you a better chance of getting the same auditor. So once you've decided to go for it and you've decided that you want to go for SALSA, what do you do now? So I'm just going to give you some top tips now. So the first thing to do is don't panic. Just keep things simple. So I was once told many years ago, when you're preparing for an audit, over-prepare and make sure that you know your product. But this doesn't mean overcomplicating things, though. It's about keeping things simple and just know your audit standard. Be familiar with it. Sometimes that, make sure that you know where all your documentation and things are kept. So firstly, download the audit standard, be really familiar with it, read it through, complete your self-assessment checklist. And this is something that your SALSA mentor can do for you. This is the gap analysis that I was talking about. And you don't have to do it, if you're doing it yourself, you don't have to do it all in one go. It's split into different sections. The audit standard is into 4 sections. So if you do it yourself, then I recommend that you do it in bite-sized chunks. So in 4 different sections. Don't feel that you have to overwhelm yourself and do it all in one day. However, if you do get a SALSA mentor, they're really experienced and well practiced, so they can do it in 1 full day if that's what you would wish. When you're doing your self-assessment, use the interpretation guide as well that I talked about, because this gives you lots of detail and just helps make sure that you're on the right track. So that so that when you have your audit, you're really well prepared. And also remember, there's the tools and tips as well, which saves absolutely loads of time when you're setting up your SALSA food safety management system for the first time. So we're now going to get started. So use your, once you've done your self-assessment, I would just use this as a jobs to-do list and just tick it off. And the self-assessment has got a section for you to fill in what you actually have in place, what you want to, what you need to put in place. And if there is something that you need to put in place, then it has an action owner and timescales. So use that section of your self-assessment checklist as a to-do list and just tick it off as you go along. Remember to put the dates that you've actually completed the work. So, so when you're ready, train out your procedures. And a good thing to do when you're training out your procedures and your work instructions or your records that you're implementing to your operatives and the personnel on site, it's useful to use a simple training matrix. And with a training matrix, it can just be a simple table or on either Excel or on a Word document, but just have the procedure name or the record that needs to be trained out across the top, and then have the person's, have everybody's name along the left-hand side, and then just inside the boxes underneath kind of that correlate to the person's name and the procedure that they've trained, just write in there the date that they have been trained, or you could put next year's date to show that that's when they're due to be trained next time. It just makes life easy for you and helps you keep on top of your training. So let's have a think now on how can it all go wrong. So if you've got your procedures, we want to make sure that they are compliant to the SALSA standard. So, so you can buy off, some people have experienced have bought off-the-shelf procedures. They might have been from a consultant, but they're not necessarily SALSA compliant with the up-to-date SALSA standard. So just be careful of this if this is something that you're doing. So one company that I went to audit bought a procedures manual. They were told that it was SALSA compliant, but they didn't think to check it against the SALSA audit standard before they had their audit. So there was key things in there relating to personal hygiene, about the wearing of false eyelashes. We'd updated one of the clauses to include e-cigarettes. And of course, those SALSA procedures weren't compliant. Also check that all personnel know the procedures. So for example, I went to do an audit at a brewery. The owner was seen in the brewery with his watch on and a gold chain round his neck. And when I questioned him about the personal hygiene policy, he didn't know what I was referring to, obviously, because he wasn't following it. He had his watch on. But what does this say about the food safety culture in your business? So if the owner's not following the procedures, then how can you expect other people to follow them? Another company that I audited recently used a technical consultant, not a SALSA approved mentor. And this consultant helped them create a risk assessment. But the company didn't check it first, and it actually had the wrong product category in there. It was a produce site and it had about fish in there. Had a different company name that was referenced in there. So just watch out for this. If you're using a technical consultant, make sure that you check the procedures that they're giving you first. Don't just assume that it's right. And, you know, is it relevant? Are these procedures relevant to your company, to what you do? Have you got the right product title, the right products referenced in there, the right job titles? Are they correct and relevant to your company? But your procedures need to work for you and show how you are meeting the SALSA standard. So HACCP then, so this is something that people sometimes get wrong. So they think that they're just, you know, they might go on they might have some HACCP training, and they're just doing it to tick a box really to get through their audit. But just when you do go for training, make sure you understand what's being trained in enough detail so that you can implement it effectively at your site. So just make sure, because sometimes people might have HACCP in place, but actually they've not got enough detail in there thinking about the hazard types, or they just might not understand it. If somebody else has helped them write their HACCP system, which is fine, just make sure that you understand it, because you will need to demonstrate this, and HACCP's all about food safety at the end of the day, so it's really important that you understand it and that it's implemented correctly within your business. Help your employees as well feel really confident and comfortable demonstrating if they've got any CCP, critical control point checks to do. So practice with them before the audit. Ask them to show you how they do the CCPs. Where do they write it? Ask that, have you checked that they're competent? Ask them, what would you do if this happened? And keep practicing it with them. And it might seem a bit boring going down every day and doing it, but it just really helps your employees feel really confident. So if an auditor does ask them, they don't kind of feel fazed by it. And when they're demonstrating a CCP, it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. What the auditor's looking for is how they deal with it. So do they take the necessary corrective action, which is why it's so important to ask them, what would you do if this happened? And it's all about making sure that you stay calm, put the product on hold since the last good check, make sure they report it to the manager. And that's all the auditor's wanting to know is, do you know what to do to keep the product safe? So now that we know how things can go wrong, let's look at what works really well to give you some help and advice here. So I would say when you're developing your systems, implementing SALSA, don't think that it's got to be lots more paperwork. Try and utilise existing paperwork. So breweries in particular do a fantastic job of this. They put lots of checks onto one brew sheet. So do you need a separate blade register, for example, or can this go on a startup check sheet that you're using in the recipe makeup area? Or can it go on a recipe sheet where you're actually opening the bags? Do you need 2 records on the packing line, or can you have one A3 perhaps? Include employees when you're developing your records as well, and ask them how they would like the records setting up. Trial it with them before you go live with these records, so that your employees can give you good feedback on how it can make it easier for them. They're the people that are going to be filling it in at the end of the day. So when we think about food safety culture then, so now that you've got the correct systems in place, it's really important to make sure that you've got the right food safety culture. And what this means is being audit ready. So we live and, we all live in the real world, so make sure that your systems and your procedures are set up so they can be easily followed every day. Make sure that they're easily accessible as well. Are you confident that employees know the procedures and follow them every day, even if you're not around? In case you've missed it as well, we have got a SALSA webinar on food safety quality culture as well, so that's been recorded, so you can have a look, you can watch that. But yeah, just be really, make sure that you're ready for your audit, audit ready every day. You're not just waiting until your SALSA audit, you're doing the right thing all the time. Make sure you've got the right, where we're thinking about leadership, which is what the SALSA auditor is looking for, is, have you got resources available? What continuous improvement plans have you got in place? Are the employees engaged? Have you got this open communication within your business? But it's about doing the right thing every day. So integrity is about doing the right thing even when nobody is watching. So let's prepare for the big day then. So make life easy for yourself is what I would say. Store procedures electronically, so you've got them in subfolders if you are storing them electronically, and have them in line, have them in the relevant sections of the SALSA standard. So you don't have to number your procedures in line with the SALSA standard, but it is useful to know which procedures relate to which clauses. You can print out a folder with the procedures in the same order of the standard as well. And this just helps you when you're being audited, because you can hand that to the auditor to have a look at some other procedures while you go and get some information if needs be. So reference the procedure on the self-assessment sheet as well. So when you carry out your self-assessment, you can always use this during your audit. So if you've got, so you can write the procedure down on your self-assessment, and then if you're having your audit and you're not quite sure what the auditor is asking, just use your self-assessment as a reference point so that you know where everything is. Your records should show how you are meeting the standard as well, so make sure they do. Also, make sure that you test the traceability system. This is one of the most frequently raised corrective actions where people don't test it, and that is a requirement of SALSA that you carry out a test at least once a year, and you can show this to the auditor. We've also got our tools and tips on traceability, as well as another webinar coming up. So make sure that you've got 2 to 3 months of records available as well, because that's what you will be required to show as a minimum to the auditor on a first audit. So the big day is nearly here. So we want to make sure that I would always recommend contacting the auditor a bit nearer to the time. Even if you've heard from them, just make contact with them again. Find out what the coat size is, just these practical things. Find out what size shoes they wear, and if you are expecting them to change into some protective footwear while they're on site, make sure you've got the right size in place for them. Provide upfront information as well. So just think, if you were coming to your site for the first time, is there anything that you would need? So directions. I've been to sites before and my sat nav doesn't always get me to the right place. So is there any specific directions that would help the auditor? So ask the auditor in advance as well for an agenda if they haven't already sent it through, and just practical things. So would they like lunch while they're here? It's just one less job to do on the day, so that you've got it all well prepared. But some auditors might ask for some information up front, such as your CCP summary, a flow diagram, or a site map. So the big audit day is here, so make sure you make a great first impression. So first impressions count. Don't just consider the inside of the building. What's on the outside and around the back of your premises too, because your auditor may well look around the back. Is the yard clean and tidy? Have you got any grassy areas that are overgrown? Think about the staff facilities, so canteen, eating room, restrooms. They don't need to be brand new, but they do need to be clean and well looked after. So all of these gives the auditor a good idea of how much you think of your colleagues, the premises, and what your culture's like in regards to food safety. And then what I would say is be prepared and think like an auditor as well. The key to a successful audit is about being prepared, be familiar with the audit standard, know which procedures relate to which clauses. Have you used the interpretation guide when you've carried out your self-assessment? Because that will really help you. And make sure as well that you're, if you have raised any actions as part of your self-assessment, that you've completed them and signed it off on your self-assessment to show the auditor that you've done it within the agreed timescales. Think like an auditor. So what auditors want you to succeed. So think, how can you make the audit run smoothly? Consider what would you like to see to demonstrate compliance if you were the auditor. Thinking like an auditor can really help the audit run smoothly. Is your documentation readily available to show the auditor? And just keep calm. Sometimes things go wrong in an audit, which, you know, it's fine. We all live and breathe in the real world, as I've already said. But, you know, if things don't go to plan, it doesn't matter. Just carry on, stay calm, and it's how you deal with these, how you deal with things. What the auditor is looking for is that you're taking the right corrective action if that situation was to arise. And lastly, though, it's time to shine as well. So you've worked really hard for your audit. Make sure, and so have your team, prepare your operators so they know what to expect. They might know what questions they might get asked. So let them know they might get asked on how you carry out a CCP, or what checks you do when you receive raw materials on site for the first time when they're being delivered. But yeah, it's a fantastic time to kind of celebrate your success, demonstrate this food safety culture and the knowledge that your operators have. An audit day can be daunting, but remember, you and your team do this job day in, day out, and the auditor's just on site for the first time. So, you know, make sure that you're able to demonstrate and show your auditor how well your company is run and how compliant you are with regards to the SALSA standard and the hard work that you've put in. So, so we've got some SALSA benefits here then. So our SALSA suppliers are really proud and love to shout about having SALSA. And we often see actually on LinkedIn, they share their certificates. I had a supplier the other week that was shared on LinkedIn a wall of 10 years worth of certificates. There's a brewery that I mentor that has gained more business with a well-known pub chain. And this has meant that they can produce longer runs of beer, and they've got promotions at key periods throughout the year as well. Another producer, a produce supplier that I recently audited, told me that gaining SALSA has helped their business immensely. Putting the SALSA systems in place has helped them understand the controls around traceability, which in turn has reduced their waste and increased their production yields as well. Reduce the waste and increase the production yields as well. It's also reduced the number of customer complaints as well, because they've got better procedures and standards in place. And it's also helped them to extend the shelf life of their products. So I'm just going to hand you over to Sarah now, who's going to talk you through some success stories.
Hi, thank you so much, Alison. That was a really good insight into what you see when you're auditing and mentoring day in, day out for SALSA. There's some really good tips on there. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. So as Alison said at the beginning of the webinar, we are very much a supportive scheme. We're here to help our members be the best and have the most robust and confident food safety systems in place. And we're very keen to shout about all your successes, and here is just a small selection. So if you on your social media, or you tell us you're in a chain or you're in a retailer and you want to shout about it, we will share that across our network. So you can see here Planet Donut going into Co-op, which was a great achievement for them. We had a number of our members take part of Aldi's Next Best Thing, which happened last year, and Mud Foods was one of their winners, which was exciting. And just recently, Montgomery's cheddar cheese, won the Best Salsa Plus Cheese trophy at the Virtual Cheese Awards, where they also won Supreme Champion. And we want to shout about that. You know, we see how hard you work, and we know and understand how difficult it is at the moment. So we like to think that we can support you in that way. We also have SALSA Bites, which is our seasonal newsletter, which I produce in winter, spring, summer. And within this newsletter, again, we talk about the things that you are doing, but we'll put in scheme updates, lots of different food industry information that we think is useful to you. We don't bombard you with information on emails and things like that, but we do like to communicate with you regularly.